Hi everybody, my name is Tyler Smith. I'm working as a full-time environment artist in the video games industry here in Denver. In the meantime, I like to do a lot of personal creature, alien, and alien environment art, and people have been asking me how I go about doing doing those illustrations on the internet, so I figured I'd finally get around to it and make a tutorial. I recorded the entire process, and I'll start off here and show you how I go about it. So right now I just started with a polysphere, and I just grabbed the move brush and I'm going crazy with trying to pick out any abstract shapes I may find. This is going to be a bust, so I'm just thinking about the main shapes, the head and neck, some sort of crest. I usually go about doing bovine sort of alien, something like a very abstract crest with a nice sort of buffalo or steer build at the neck region. So here I am just with the Damien Standard brush, the move brush, the snake hook brush, and I don't treat anything precious whatsoever. I just yank stuff all over the place. I mirror stuff. It's just like sketching on paper, but you're just really going crazy with yanking all these shapes around and just seeing what works and what doesn't. Keeping in mind the hierarchy of shapes, you should have large abstract shapes and then smaller shapes that support them. Have a nice flow, like lots of curves that curve into one shape and go into another shape. So right here I have a head and a neck that I kind of like, so I'm building on it more and starting to delve into what kind of anatomy might take place. With the neck, I'm looking at a lot of reference of cow necks and feline necks. I have a book by Terrell Whitlatch, who it's one of the best animal anatomy books I have. It's just so informative. There's so much great insight on animal anatomy. She's like one of the best creature artists out there, I think. I like this crest shape, the way it plays off of the large form of the neck, and it looks really great from a front view, and I think it works with the side view too. So I have this large shape, and right now I'm going in with the Damien Standard, just using lines with the lazy mouse to emphasize those large shapes. Just smaller shapes supporting large shapes, and down there I'm just kind of fiddling around with that little face area, seeing what sort of abstract shapes work for adding abstract personality. I'm a huge fan of sort of abstract, surreal facial features, meaning there are organs and pieces of anatomy down there, but they don't follow the rule set that creatures on Earth might. So you kind of play around with the abstract aesthetics of what makes a face, what makes eyes or a mouth or a nose, and kind of run with it, and as a result you get this sort of great, real yet not real result. I think Wayne Barlow was the artist that patented that and really brought it into the mainstream, and I think Alex Rees uses it masterfully as well. So I always look at those guys for just the inspiration of taking abstract shapes and making them look plausible and realistic. That, I think, is one of the huge important aspects of creature design. When it comes to sculpting anatomy in really any form, one of the keys to fighting lumpiness and unevenness in your mesh is to mainly the techniques I use are, if you look at my poly count, it's only like 64,000. Something that if you were to take the smooth brush, you can really just sort of smooth everything down and get rid of all the features, and that's actually a very good practice to have. Detail will slowly build itself up over time. You just want to build up and smooth down and build up and smooth down just constantly, and there's really no point at all in preserving detail. That's something I used to do when I was starting out as a student, and really just it ends up creating very uneven, sort of beef jerky kind of looking anatomy that doesn't look good. The other important thing too is I use the clay buildup to build up my form, and how I lay it out is I turn the intensity down to a very low setting, like 2 or 3, and I just place down dozens and dozens of strokes. You might see that here, where I'm just like laying down all these little tiny strokes on top and then smoothing them down and then just rinsing and repeating. And if I ever want a sharp line, I'll just take out the Damien Standard or the Met Cut brush, turn on Lazy Mouse, and just do a nice, clean emphasis line like right there on emphasizing the sharpness of a form. And then you lay on just these little garnish passes of small patterns. I'm not worried at all at this stage about portraying this as like a realistic material like skin or bone or anything like that. It's just all about creating interesting 3D forms. So I'm still messing around with the contour of this crest here and the back neck, and I never stop designing. Just always looking at it, always flipping it around and making sure that the contour of all the shapes flow nicely in and out of each other. And right here I'm experimenting with these feelers right here, maybe. And another thing to keep in mind too is just creature functionality, like how does it eat, how does it provide its sensory organs, how does it have sensory organs or anything like that. Yeah, I actually end up taking these out right at the very last painting stage, but they're still, it was good to see them there. They might have looked a little better here when it was all grayscale, but I'm just playing around with sharpness of line and seeing what kind of detail hurts or helps the main priority forms of the crest, and just taking the trim dynamic brush, and if anything looks kind of lumpy or just uneven or not clean, I'll just kind of go in and do those little passes to sharpen and flatten the planes to really make it clear where the plane changes are. Should always treat detail too, wherever there's high contrast, like at the bottom of the neck there, where there's sort of a lot of skin folds and wrinkles. I put a pattern down there just to kind of emphasize that that's the detailed part of the sculpt, whereas on the top of the neck it's a little more plain, and it's a really nice balance of contrast where you have areas where the eye can rest and areas where the eye can have a lot of fun looking at lots of different details and patterns. Same with the crest, same with the face. This is the stage of the sculpt where I'm just going through and being really nitpicky. Right here I'm going back and making sure that back neck anatomy looks very nice and rigid, and you can kind of see right there it's a little... one thing about muscles that is very important is they never curve. They're always sort of pulled... I think this is right. I don't have any scientific evidence to back this up, but I think this is right. Where you'd never see like a group of muscle fibers just sort of curving. They would always be kind of pulled and taut, if that makes sense. This might be a little bit easier to explain from a visual standpoint, so another reason to make another tutorial later down the line. I am planning on doing more tutorials later down the line. This is one of the first ones I've done in a very, very long time, so I figured I'd just start with baby steps. Right here I'm experimenting with just like quills on the back. I really like using those because it's just a nice pattern emphasis that just kind of looks nice with the balance and flow between the head and the neck and all those shapes. So going in and just kind of seeing what sizes work and don't work. I'll take them out and I'll add other ones and see if they work. And I never delete anything because you never know when you might want to put it back and see if it complements something else or not. So I'm definitely kind of a digital hoarder, but